What is up, everybody out there? This is Deshaun Reed with Destination Fantasy. In today's video, we're going to show you how to approach fantasy football players who had a down year due to injury. And on that list, we have names such as Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott, Joe Burrow, and Odell Beckham Jr. Check it out.
Welcome to another edition of the Destination Fantasy Podcast. Once again, I'm here with my brother from another mother, Mr. Deshaun Reed. How you doing this morning, brother?
Man, I am a little bit tired, man. Had a long night. Had my niece over, but man, I still feel pretty good this morning. How about yourself?
Man, tell me about it. Bro, I didn't get to sleep until midnight. Had the rest of the family up until like maybe 4 a.m. But we're here.
We're here.
That lets you know how much we love what we're doing, man.
That's dedication right there, man.
Hit the snooze button on y'all. All right, so the past month we basically been going over how to win your fantasy football league and different different strategies on how to draft, because drafting is the biggest essential to me on how successful your fantasy football season is going to go. And so this right here also is, focusing on how to approach certain players who had a bad season last year, either due to injury, and specifically this topic will be about ACLs, or just in general that guys just didn't live up to expectations. I know, towards the end of last year, if I'm not mistaken, Deshaun had a bust of players that that didn't sit too well in his heart, and he basically let us know what that was about.
Oh yeah, so we gonna get into a little bit of that a little bit later.
We definitely are. All right, so yeah, today's topic is how to approach fantasy football players who had a down year. So we know that people in general, sometimes draft with emotion and sometimes draft with recency bias and things of that nature, and rightfully so. If you drafted a guy that's supposed to be, your bell cow, your go-to guy, and he did not live up to the hype for whatever reason, then you're gonna feel a certain type of way next year around when you draft and you see that player's name. It's just the way it is. And so we have highlighted 8 players here, specifically for today's topic, and just gonna go over them and just basically we're gonna give our thoughts about it. Just so maybe if you're on the fence about a certain guy, maybe this here might, help you one way or another. And so first segment, we're going to call this the ACL comeback. So we're going to highlight 4 players here that had ACL injuries. That's probably the top 4 players that has some type of fantasy relevance. And so with that, we're going to give them a grade. Based on the letters of the ACL. So A is going to stand for A+, as in, they're going to exceed expectations this year. You should definitely, jump on that bandwagon. C, they basically just going to be average, nothing spectacular, but they're not going to be trash. And then L, basically, they either a loser or taking L's, which way you want to put it. And, they're just not going to be that same player this upcoming season. All right, and so we're going to go with our first player here, who always has a lot of headlines, always in the news one way or another. His name is Odell Beckham Jr. So, Deshaun, without further ado, give us a quick recap on Odell Beckham here.
Okay. So, OBJ, he tore his ACL, and it was actually his left knee. His 2020 stats were 319 yards receiving, 3 touchdowns to go along with 23 catches. And that was out of the 7 games that he did actually play in, including the one that he actually hurt himself. So last year, his ADP was 3.12, which means he was definitely somewhere near the first couple of picks in the 3rd round. And he actually finished last year as the number 91 wide receiver. Like, I'm looking at that, and that's weird to have his name but again, it was due to him being injured and him just not finishing the season. I think he would have played a much better season.
And that was week 4, right? Or somewhere.
I think it was week 6 or 7.
Week 6, okay.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so I mean, it said he was in 7 games. So I'm guessing it definitely had to be week 7 that he hurt himself. So
correct. Okay, yeah, you're right. Because I remember the play where Baker Mayfield threw a pick and he chased the guy down, and it didn't even look like much, but
those be the worst ones, bro.
Yeah, it just freaking nature. So yeah. I guess at this point, like, how would you grade based on our grading scale? How would you grade Odell here?
I mean, Odell is tough. I think Odell is probably the toughest one to grade considering the style of play in which they recently adopted in the games that they didn't have Odell. They're super run heavy now. You still do got you still got Jarvis Landry there. You still have Austin Hooper, but clearly Odell Beckham is the best receiver out of that group. And I don't know, Jamar. That one is kind of tough. I want to go in between the A and the C there. I think he'll be a solid B. I don't want to give him an A, just strictly based on the style of play in which they have. It's heavy run style. I think they're going to lean a lot on those two backs that they have in the backfield. And if I would have to rank them, it would probably be a B, bro, and probably toward like the B minus. I think he can. I mean, he clearly has wide receiver 1 upside, like clearly, like no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But I think he's just going to be somewhere a little bit above average. I'm going to just call out like some stats here. I'm going to say he's going to barely eclipse 1,000 yards. Let's say 1,000, like 90. He's going to have maybe 80 something catches and about 8 to 11 touchdowns. So those would warrant somewhere between wide receiver 2 numbers for me. So I would have to give him a B.
All right. So I think right now he's currently going around the 6th round.
Wow. Okay, so there is some value there for sure.
So I mean, based on the scale, I'm gonna say he's going to, based on his ADP and what happened last year and the flow of the offense now, I'm gonna say he's probably gonna be around the average range to see based on ADP and expectations and stuff. Mm-hmm. So the OBJ that we've known from the Giants, that's a wrap. That's not happening in his current condition. Maybe if he gets traded somewhere and becomes the number 1 option again, maybe you probably see a spike in his production. But right now, based on the system, and if they're running that current system like they did after his injury, which I'm pretty sure they will, that the team is run first, use the play action to help get the wide receivers open and go from there. Wide receivers are a secondary option for the Cleveland Browns.
Absolutely.
And so that means Odell Beckham will have to play within the system. So that right there, all limit his production overall, his reach. And so yes, he's the most talented wide receiver, still one of the most talented wide receivers in the league, definitely the most talented on the team. So I'm definitely gonna say average. He's gonna play as a wide receiver 2 as he should in that ballpark. I mean, could there be times where he finished in the top 10 a couple weeks in the season? Sure. But more times than not, he's going to give you wide receiver 2 production. Once again, he's coming back from ACL injury. Normally it takes 2 years for football players to actually get back to where they are. But the fact that they're leaning on the run and not leaning on him per se so much, it might actually, accelerate the expectations on that front. But overall, based on the system, I'm giving them a C.
Okay.
All right. So this one right here, like, I'm a huge fan of this guy. Like, I am. And I feel like, with the Giants, he hasn't had, the best opportunity to reach his full potential. Between the injuries and the offensive line, we haven't seen his full potential yet. And so really quick, man, what's the notes on Saquon Barkley here?
All right, so we got Saquon Barkley. He tore his ACL. His in his right knee.
Against
was it against the Bears? Oh man, y'all dirty, bro. So he had 19 rushes for 34 yards, 0 TDs, 6 catches for 60 yards, and that was in 2 full games. And it looks like he finished as the number 120 running back with only 15.4 fantasy points in those 2 games. So anyone, and I mean anyone who drafted Saquon Barkley, like they were probably down in the dumps, bro. Considering that his ADP was 1.03, which means he was a top 3 pick in the first round. And we are strictly speaking from 10-team PPR format. So yeah, man, like it was really, really tough for Saquon Barkley on his last year, Jamar.
Yeah, and so with Saquon, I want to say that this year should be his best chance to actually show us what he's really made of, just because of the fact that they gave Daniel Jones a lot of weapons to work with, so the pressure won't be, I guess, more on Saquon. Just kind of similar to Odell Beckham in that sense. Like the system that Odell is in, it won't be heavily emphasized on OBJ. I guess kind of the same here with Saquon. They signed Kenny Golladay. They drafted the wide receiver in the first round. I think last name Tony. You have Sterling Shepard. You have Darius Slayton. You have Evan Ingram. I'm pretty sure they signed Cal Rudolph as well. I think they tweaked up the offensive line a little bit. And Daniel Jones is entering his 3rd year. Normally, 3rd-year quarterbacks, you see a bit of a progression
right
from the first couple of years, significant progression. So, with all that being said, I want to say Saquon is leaning towards an A here as far as, what to expect. I think this is going to be his best year. I know, like I mentioned before, guys coming off of ACLs usually take 2 years. But we've seen anomalies, and I feel like based on his freaking nature body, it might be an anomaly. And the person I'm thinking of was Adrian Peterson, who came back from the ACL and just ripped the league to shreds. And I think his body type is similar to that regard. And so I do expect big things out of Saquon here.
Okay. So, man, and again, like, so you touched on some key points, Jamar, and the way that this offense is set up, it's actually set up and is built to score some points. I think this Giants team, even with Danny Dimes and like all of his weapons there, I think this team is only going to go as far as Saquon Barkley is going to take them. Like he's a huge part to this offense, not only in the rushing game, but in the receiving game as well. So I feel like that I'm going to give him an A, man, with the talent that Danny Dimes has around him, the Evan Ingrams, the huge acquisition of Kenny Golladay, which will be able to stretch the field. It's going to open up things for Saquon as well. And we don't talk enough about Danny Dimes' mobility, Jamar, to be able to get out in open space. Again, that's still going to open up things for Saquon Barkley. Like you said, I think it's based upon the individual's work ethic here. And like that guy has been putting in work. And like I have been seeing it. He looks fantastic. He looks like he's ready to roll. So I'm going to give Saquon Barkley an A just based on, just the current nature in which the Giants are set up at this moment. And again, I think their defense doesn't get enough credit as well. Like I think they do show flashes of brilliance at times. So
that is true. So far on our grading scale, Odell Beckham Jr., you give him a B. I'm giving him a C.
B minus.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So B minus. Yes. I give him a C. We're both giving Saquon Barkley an A here. Mm-hmm. All right. So next one, this guy is in a I guess he's in a special situation with these comebacks on this injury here. So Joe Burrow, not only he tore his ACL, he also tore his MCL. But miraculously enough, I mean, from what I'm hearing, he's on track to be the starter of week 1. Don't hold me to that. It's still, the end of June here. But the fact that he's like even on pace to be the starter that early on, and I think the injuries came like past the middle of the season last year. That's incredible. From the eye test, Joe Burrow looked like the real deal before the injury.
Mm-hmm.
And so go ahead, man, and give us the background on Joe Burrow here.
All right. Joe Burrow, left knee, ACL, and MCL. Oh, man, both of them in the same knee. So Joe Burrow he had a really solid season in the games in which he played, 2,688 yards passing, a 13-5 TD to interception ratio, 37 rushes, 142 yards, and 3 more scores. So it looks like he had an ADP of 12.4. So somewhere near the middle of the 12th round last year, Joe Burrow was picked, which is pretty good considering like he was like a rookie. Finishes the season as the number 25 quarterback, the number 25 fantasy quarterback with 178.7 points. And that was all in 10 games, Jamar.
10 games. So, yeah. So that means he tore it in October.
Yes.
And that means if he was to start, we were looking at less than a year of recovery for this man. So yeah, the eye test, like I mentioned before, shows that this man is the real deal. They added more weapons here. They got his former boy from LSU, Jamar Chase. What a great name, by the way. I think they drafted an offensive tackle in the second round there because if you watched any of the games last year, he was running for his life and was still putting up good numbers. And that's probably the reason why he tore his ACL, because that line is trash. But nevertheless, Joe Burrow has the potential to definitely be great this year. Like I mentioned, drafted Jamar Chase. You still got Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins. Like, I cannot say enough about this guy. We really, really are like this guy. We heavily think that he's gonna have a breakout year. You still got Joe Mixon, who is a very, very high quality running back. Defense is still suspect, which would mean that they'll be on the field. The offense will be on the field quite a bit. So that's definitely, their potential overall to put up fantasy points is pretty high. And so, with all that being said, I think I'm going to lean towards an A more than a C on this ACL grading scale, just because I feel like he's going to exceed his ADP right now for this year and has a chance to actually do some things. So
with that being said, what is his current ADP right now?
His current ADP is, wait for it, I just had it up. I am sorry. Like, overall, his ADP is 84, so that means he's going in the 9th round. So
that's pretty good.
Yeah. So I feel like he can I think he can crack the top 10 if all things said and done. He has that potential. He has that upside.
No, I mean, dude, I'm with you, and your analysis was spot on. With the addition of a Jamar Chase, LSU running mate, there's already familiarity there in that regard. I mean, Tyler Boyd, fantastic slot receiver. T. Higgins, he has, stepped up tremendously. And we look towards like the backfield with Joe Mixon. He is 100% healthy as far as what I've been hearing. This guy is a dual threat running back. Oh man, trust me. He was one of the ones up on that bus that we were talking about earlier. But I think he's going to be fantastic. And the main key thing here, Jamar, I think they spent more than 3 picks on revamping that offensive line. So I mean, they see that their star quarterback goes out, and what do? They place their focus on that offensive line to try their best to keep this guy upright because he is the franchise quarterback. And with all of that being said, man, you even touched on it a little bit earlier. They're gonna be in a lot of games, but they're gonna give up a lot of points, which means the offense is gonna be on the field, which means more plentiful chances for all of these offensive weapons. It seems like the perfect storm. It all depends on how healthy Joe Burrow truly is. Do not get this guy out there too early because that'll definitely be a mistake. So I'm definitely going to go A and A+, even if I could.
Once again, we agree on that. So really quick recap. So OBJ, you give him a B minus, I give him a C. Saquon Barkley, both give him A's. Joe Burrow, same thing, A's as far as expectations. All right, so another guy here who tore his ACL. I'm familiar with the guy. He's also known as the human joystick. Our guy, Tarik Cohen. So, you know, in the Matt Nagy system, you know, especially his rookie year, he came out and, you know, was spectacular, did his thing. But, you know, since then, he hasn't, you know, really been that productive per se, as far as fantasy-wise. I know entering this year, the backfield is kind of crowded. We did sign Damian Williams. We already got David Montgomery. We did draft a running back who I think is going to make the roster, and then you got Tarik Cohen here. Give us a quick rundown on Mr. Cohen.
All right, so Tarik Cohen tore his ACL, and that was in his right knee. It looks like he finished with 14 rushes for 74 yards, 0 touchdowns. 6 catches for 41 yards, and this was in a span of 3 games. Looks like he finished as the number 110 fantasy running back with only 17.5 fantasy points in 3 games. And this is like a shocker. So his ADP, Jamar, was 8.01. So he was somewhere around like the first 2 picks in the 8th round. So that was a definitely shocker stat for me when I looked it up. So
yeah, I mean, at that point, I mean, he had expectations of being a flex play because the year before that, I mean, he definitely was a viable flex option. And so now,
so I want to go first with this one, just to make sure that they know that we are not on like the same page and we're not just doing it based off of everyone else. And I'm gonna do that because this is your team. You are, you know, hashtag bear down. I'm gonna let you end this segment with your thoughts. So my look on Tarik Cohen, like with the addition of a Damian Williams, with you guys drafting another running back who you and I both agree should be able to make this 53-man roster. I'm gonna go ahead and jump out there and give Tarik Cohen an L, and like my first L of the day. David Montgomery was fantastic down the stretch last year. I think you and I went over his stats from like the past like the last 6 games, and I don't want to mess up anything, but I think he had over 800 yards, and he was averaging 20 fantasy points per game during that span. So he was absolutely on a tear. And I think he did enough to be able to securely and firmly grasp that RB1 status, and he would be my prototypical RB2 in this fantasy draft, but with RB1 upside if he can continue down that same stretch. So with all that being said, I'm going to have to give it an L. I'm going to have to give Tarik Cohen an L here. And just because of the fantastic play that David Montgomery has, showed. And like, it was right on time because I've been waiting on this. So
I know you have. Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, you took the words out of my mouth. I'm giving this man an L. And that sucks. Like he's a bear.
I thought you were gonna have a little bit of compassion for him.
No,
man, I did.
I can't be biased here. I mean, crowded backfield. I mean, you know, Bears have position battles at probably almost every position going into training camp. Him coming back off an ACL injury. I mean, even before the injury, I mean, his fantasy relevancy wasn't even like the greatest. ADP right now, I think I saw it at 155. So he's only like valuable in deeper leagues right now. So in your standard 10-12 team, he's not even getting on the field in your lineup. But if he is, then there's a problem with your team and those type of leagues. So yeah, man, this out the ACL grade, he's definitely taking L's here, and I feel bad for the guy. I like the guy, but fantasy relevance and anything dealing with fantasy football, no, nope, not doing it. Not gonna be able to do it. All right, so yeah, we basically went through top 4 guys that torn ACLs that gonna be the most fantasy relevant. So we actually have some other guys here who did not live up to expectations. And I'm gonna start with this first guy here.
Oh boy,
who is near and dear to Deshaun's heart.
He is absolutely not.
Mr. Ezekiel Elliott. So, for those that don't know, I'm gonna definitely let you take the reins on this one. But for those that don't know, Ezekiel. Last time I checked, he was caught stealing money from the Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones. Like Zeke, if you played him and played probably every game last year, you probably didn't make the playoffs in your league more times than not. Maybe you probably, if you did, the rest of your team was really strong because that man did not show up ever since Dak Prescott went down last year. I think in Week 5. But yeah, go ahead, man. Let them know how you feel.
Oh boy! Before we get into stats and anything, I feel like Jamar is poking fun strictly at me. But what can you do for like the people out there? Like if Ezekiel Elliott is sitting at number 6, and based off the year that he had previously, I mean, like what do you do? I was like shocked that he actually fell to me at 6. And again, I wish I could take that back and and now I look at it in retrospect. But needless to say, let's go ahead and jump into his stats, man. So Ezekiel Elliott, he had a multitude of injuries. It was a groin, and then it was a hamstring, and then it was a calf that kept him out. But all things considered, Jamar, looking at his stats, so he had 244 rushes, 979 yards rushing, 6 touchdowns with 52 catches for 338 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, and that was all in the span of 15 games. Now, again, he was in and out on a couple of those games. He did not play complete games, but 15 games were the games in which he did play in. So his ADP last year was 1.03. So, I mean, with his ADP being 1.03, which means he was typically the number 3 pick in the first round. With me having like the 6th pick, why wouldn't you jump at the chance to go ahead and get try to attain this guy? So
right.
This is the number 9 running back, Jamar, in PPR format with 223 points. Even with all that being said, he did not live up to that ADP. He did not, in my opinion. This was a guy in which, look, man, if you want to be the guy, if you want to get paid this top dollar, if the star quarterback of that team goes out, I need you to step up. Everyone needed you to step up, and you did not do just that. I don't want to hear any mistakes about them keying in on you, and that's not going to make you turn over the football. And that was his biggest thing. With all that being said, he turned over the ball way too much, Jamar. So even with all that being said, I'm just going to go ahead and jump into mine. I'm still going to give him an A. And this is beyond me, bro. I did not expect this. And that's just due to the fact that I believe that Dak Prescott will be back. He'll be healthy. This is a team that is just one of the best offenses in the league when all parties are healthy. So, I mean, I'm going to have to give Zeke an A, even with my, how disgruntled I am with this guy. So,
wow, I guess that's pretty grown up of you.
Man, like you said, you cannot think with like you cannot think on like the past year that he's had or any hard feelings that you have towards that player. So I mean, yeah, as it stands today, which is 6/27, I'm gonna say that he is. I'm gonna give him an A, man, and I really didn't see myself doing that this morning.
Fair enough. I mean, so yeah. Somehow Zeke did finish in the top 10 last year, which is crazy.
Yes,
because if you watch them, the eye test showed that there's no way that he could have finished like that, but he did. He definitely turned over the ball a lot. I remember one of those games, I think maybe week 6 or week 7. It was early on after Dak Prescott, was done with that ankle injury. That Zeke not once, but at least twice, like fumbled the ball, like lost the fumble. Like it was crazy. I'm sitting here like, dude, do you even want to play football anymore? I didn't get it. And then the game that he actually missed, it was during the fantasy playoffs when Tony Pollard was in there. Boy, oh boy, did Pollard, come in and showed out. and got me to the finals. He surely did. But I mean, with all that being said, I mean, you got a point. So the biggest thing he has going for him is Dak Prescott coming back.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to like take a lot of stress, a lot of pressure off of Ezekiel Elliott. Dak Prescott, what he means to that offense, I mean, we found out how much value he is. And so, you know, with him having the weapons of Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, and them being so like pass heavy nowadays, I mean, Zeke is going to have the lanes. I know the offensive line isn't, what it once was a few years ago, but if you look at Ezekiel Elliott's first 4 games last year, I'm pretty sure he scored a touchdown. Each of those games had double-digit fantasy points. It was like ranked between the top 5 and top 10 every single game before Dak got hurt. So Ezekiel Elliott's production is going to be based on Dak Prescott, without a doubt. And I know he's going, he's definitely being drafted as RB1 right now. I mean, as he should be, because like you said, and like I said earlier, recency bias, you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
You don't want to draft on emotion. We know what Ezekiel is when everything is consistent. So, I mean, yeah, I guess by default, I mean, somewhere between an A and a C, as far as expectations, he should meet those, but there's definitely a good chance that he's probably going to exceed expectations based on what he did last year. So Ezekiel Elliott is one of the safer options that we are mentioning today. So don't be alarmed. It's okay to draft Zeke. I know how you feel. I mean, Deshaun definitely let us know how he felt, but it's okay. It's okay to draft Zeke and feel comfortable about it because Dak Prescott is back. That's mainly the biggest thing for me is the fact Dak Prescott is back. Now this guy here that I'm about to talk about next. So this man played so bad last year to the fact that he got benched. The fact that he was making headlines while on the bench. The fact that he was not, a big fan of other players in the locker room. This man had to get traded. Like his TD to interception ratio is basically 1-to-1. I'm talking about your homeboy, Carson Wentz. Oh, he ain't your homeboy.
Definitely not. I'm gonna let Coach Nation have that guy.
So it went from my boy Keelan's boy to our bros and your cousin Vic and Chris's boy now.
Yep.
Don't tell him I said that. But but real quick, give us a quick rundown, Mr. Wentz.
So, I mean, I know I led off with the injury, first and foremost, but he didn't have one. We're just going to say that he had an injured heart for being benched, man. So his heart was a little bit broken. So that's the injury designation that we're going to give Mr. Wentz here. So 2,620 yards passing, 16 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. And this is in 11 games, Jamar. Not even a full 16. This is in 11 games. 16 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. Enough said. But the surprising thing was 52 rushes for 276 yards and 5 rushing touchdowns. So I think that's how he tried to make the best of his season, is by getting in the end zone with his legs. But sorry, bro, that was not nearly enough to secure your starting job. So it looks like he had an ADP of 9.12, which means he was in the first few picks in the 9th round. Looks like he finished last year as the number 22 quarterback with 213 fantasy points. So, yeah, he definitely underachieved, and rightfully so. He got his spot taken. So, I mean, good riddance, I guess.
Sheesh. I mean, I want to say, yeah, he's the only one on our list today that that didn't live with the expectations, not because of injury, because he sucked. I just, call it for what it is. I get it, his weapons, was hurt. I get it. There was no Ertz, Alshon Jeffrey, you probably need an APB out on Alshon Jeffrey. I get that.
Who?
Yeah, exactly. Miles Sanders wasn't in the lineup all the time. I get it. But, you know, the way that the NFC lease was last year and the fact that could not take advantage of how poor that division was being played, like you arguably was the best quarterback, like supposed to be the best quarterback, like in that division for the entirety of that season because Dak Prescott went out. You're supposed to be the guy.
Yep.
And it was like if you watch the games with your eyes, like Carson Wentz, like it looked bad. It was, he had a couple of moments where like, ooh, okay, that's a Wentz throw. That like it was, you had minimal flashes of the Carson Wentz of 2017 when he was going to win the MVP before he got hurt. It was just minimal. You probably count on your hand how many times you saw that. And he make like one or two decent throws a game, but everything else, it just looked bad. And what made it even worse was the fact after he got benched, Jalen Hurts came in with the same weapons that Carson Wentz had and actually looked like the weapons actually didn't look as bad as what Carson Wentz made it out to be based on his production. That's the problem. And so now, Carson Wentz, goes into another situation here. It's probably the best situation for this man. He goes to a place where the coach was his quarterback coach during the best time of his career in 2017. A guy that still believes in the guy. They're not going to be pass heavy. They have, in my opinion, the second best running back tandem in the whole league. I mean, the wide receiver core is solid.
It's suspect. I just don't think that they have like a truly number one guy right now.
They don't, but I feel like they have, if this was the NBA, they have role players for wide receivers.
Okay, yeah.
So, but more importantly, they have a defense. They actually have a legitimate elite defense here who would, actually give them, the ball and like great field position. And with the running game being heavily favored, like Carson Wentz don't have to drop back and throw the ball 40 times. So Carson Wentz is in the best situation. So if Carson Wentz cannot perform with the Indianapolis Colts, then like at this point, like your relevancy, like it's not gonna be there. You're just gonna be empty calories. And the only person that I really call empty calories for a quarterback is Kirk Cousins. That's just what it is. And so right now his ADP is 159. So basically you're going in the 16th round right now in a standard draft. So basically you just barely making the cut for a roster in a lot of leagues at this moment. So with all that being said, I'm giving him a C. I think, it's more so, you got to believe it to see it type thing. See it to believe it more so. Like, you in the perfect situation for your career right now. This is the crossroads of your career. I expect you to be on the better side of things when it's all said and done this year. But the proof is in the pudding. I mean, and the pudding says that you suck right now.
Oh, that's funny. You should say that, Jamar, because I got like a little bit of a thing that was like kind of funny to me. So I actually added this one to his like stats as well. So Carson Wentz in a clean pocket in 2020. Clean pocket, no pressure. 10 interceptions. 10 interceptions. Led the league. Clean pocket. So I don't want to hear anything about you lacking weapons at the wide receiver position. Jalen Hurts didn't have that same problem. These are all you, Carson Wentz. Like, these are on you. Clean pocket, 10 interceptions, 10 of your 15. Well over half your interceptions have come from you making a bad decision. Not even throwing the ball away. You just want to try to fit it inside of a pocket. Try to make something that's not there. So, man, your analysis was spot on, Jamar. He is in probably a better position. The offensive line, much better. Not only in the passing facet, but also in the running game. They have one of the best running back tandems in the NFL in Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines. Love those guys both. They complement each other well. The only thing issue that I have. Defense, solid, rock solid. Probably going to be one of the better defenses in the league this year, even though they did lose a player or two. But it does look like that wide receiver core is still in question. That's probably like the only knock, and not the only knock on the team. I think the coach will be great next year. I just think that hopefully Carson Wentz does not need, like too good of like quarterback wide receivers there, rather to become like relevant. So I'm going to give him a C as well, but I'm going to go a little bit lower. I'm going to just give him a C minus, just based off of, look, I think this guy is, like you said, Jamar, probably in the best situation that he could have been in out of all the teams in which he wanted to go or which had interest in him. So I think he's not going to turn the ball over much because they're going to take that run first approach from him. And I think that's going to minimize his like turnovers, which means that those not going to be any minuses against him in that column rather. And I think he's just going to be solid. I think he's going to be an average quarterback, made with above average flashes next year. But I think he is going to be a quarterback who's just going to be able to get it done. So I'm going to give him a C minus here. I really don't like his upside, but I think that he is safe. I'm just going to use the word safe.
I mean, the word safe in his position, it's not good at all. But
yeah, it does sound very Alex Smithish. So,
all right, we're gonna leave it at that. Like, I'm tired of calling this guy sorry. I mean, that's what he is right now. But I'll spare him. But I will talk about his teammate though, who was apparently nowhere to be found. But it's like, a couple years ago, like this guy was top 3.
He was that dude. Position. He was that dude.
And it feels like he still can be that dude. I feel like philosophy's changed, and also, Dallas Goedert, came on the scene and ate into his target share. I mean, Zach Ertz, potential is there. Technically, he's still on the Eagles. I don't see him being on the Eagles when training camp start. I don't see it. So I expect him to be traded here in the next couple of weeks. But it's like last year definitely didn't do him any favors. So go ahead and give us that rundown on Zach Ertz.
All right. So the designated injury on Zach Ertz last year was both a high and low ankle sprain. So it looks like he had 36 catches for 335 yards, 1 TD. He did play in 11 games, but during those 11 games, Jamar, it just seemed like he was non-existent. Dallas Goedert did get injured as well, but he came back, and it seemed like he assumed that role of the number 1 tight end spot on that roster. So he finished his fantasies number 31 tight end with 77.5 fantasy points. So and his ADP was 5.03, which means he was within the first 3 picks of the 5th round in the draft. So, man, Zach Ertz on this team, I'll have to give him an L, Jamar, because I don't think he'll be able to get it done with Dallas Goedert being there. Dallas Goedert is the guy. Let's just go ahead and say that. Dallas Goedert probably is the tight end 1. You get him at a much cheaper price. He's younger. He's been out there more than Zach Ertz has, and it seems like he's gonna stay out there more than Zach Ertz if he does remain with his team. But in the right position on the right team, I think Zach Ertz can be the Zach Ertz in which we weren't seeing. I heard like a little bit of whispers, like him going to like a Buffalo or a team like that will automatically shoot his upside through the roof to be paired with a Josh Allen. But as it stands right now, that's going to have to be my second L of the day with Zach Ertz, unless he is traded to a team that is able to, utilize his talent.
Correct. So yeah, as of right now, and today, June 27th, with the Philadelphia Eagles, he is taking an L right now. I mean, like you said, Dallas Goedert's there. He's cheaper. I mean, I know that's the main reason why the Eagles want to utilize Dallas Goedert. Mm-hmm. He comes at a cheaper price. Zach Ertz, they're like, no, thank you for your services. You helped us deliver a Super Bowl. But at this point in time, you're going to be out the door, just like we did with Carson and Alshon And so yeah. Reason why we're bringing up Zach Ertz for two things. One, he was drafted as a tight end 1 last year and finished as a tight end 4, based on what you're telling me.
Yep.
And second thing is there is a very high probability he's going to end up in a greater situation sooner than later. So yeah, if he ends up on Buffalo, his stock is definitely through the roof, and he will have relevancy again. If he ends up with the Tennessee Titans, who has a void at tight end,
yep,
he will have relevancy there as well. So Zach Ertz still has the talent. Zach Ertz last year was just bad. So he's an L, but there's an asterisk next to it because there's still an unknown grade here because we don't know what the end result will be by the time week 1 comes around. So I would say, I guess if you own him in a dynasty league, definitely watch for every news report on that. If you haven't drafted yet, just keep that in the back of your head that if you don't land one of those elite tight ends, as in like Kelsey, Waller, or Kittle, or even the tier 2 tight end, just keep in your back of your mind that Zach Ertz might have some real value sooner than later.
For sure.
All right, so the last guy we want to talk about, and this is probably the scariest scenario for this dude, in my opinion, out of all the guys that we mentioned, because, like, for one, his running mate is retired. 2, he was hurt last year and just couldn't get off the ground. And 3, his potential replacements, that's what makes it scary. That's what makes it really scary. And so this, I know I call, like Wentz your boy and a couple other guys your boy, Zeke your boy, but now this guy right here was legitimately your boy. And so go ahead and give us a rundown on Mr. Michael Thomas.
Man, Michael Thomas, for like the past couple of years, he was definitely in the running. You can make a debate for being the best, wide receiver inside football. And that was a lot in part due to Drew Brees and the game plan in which, they utilized him heavily inside that offense. So Sean Payton did a great job developing Michael Thomas within his system. So it looks like Michael Thomas suffered from both a high ankle sprain and a hammy. So like the hammy is tough for a wide receiver. I mean, it is tough. We see players like Julio Jones and AJ Brown go deal with those. So it's definitely tough to recover from. It may seem like something minor, but for a wide receiver who needs to use that hammy a lot, yeah. So it looks like his 2020 season's stats were 40 catches for 438 yards, 0 touchdowns in 7 games. He finished as the number 95 wide receiver with 83.9 points in 7 fantasy games. And his ADP was 1.06, which means he was the 6th pick, typically toward the middle of the draft in the first round. So, Jamar, I like Michael Thomas a lot. I really do. But let me just go ahead and throw some stats. I'm gonna go back to his best season, which was 2019. 149 catches, 1,700 yards receiving, 9 touchdowns. And those days are over. That's the reason that I said that. Year prior, 125 catches. Year before that, 104 catches. I think those days are over. I think it's going to be somewhere between, high 80s, high 90s. I think for me, in this situation, I think they're going to lean a little bit more heavily on Alvin Kamara in this system. Now, it depends a lot on which quarterback is going to become QB1. And the way how I've been reading it, Jamar, is both of these guys are going to be utilized a lot. And this is from Sean Payton's own mouth. And those quarterbacks are Taysom Hill, who has been there with the organization for, I believe, about five years now. And it looks like Jameis Winston is coming to his sophomore season with the Saints. So, from my knowledge, if Jameis Winston gets more playing time than Taysom Hill, I think it'll benefit Michael Thomas. So, and I say that to say this: Jameis Winston is what I call the ultimate gunslinger. He doesn't care. You know what I mean? He's going to throw the ball, and Taysom Hill is going to be a more running type quarterback there. So it's going to be, he's like the Swiss Army knife. But with all that being said, great talent. He's still young. I'm going to give Michael Thomas an A. And just his upside is going to depend on which quarterback is in at whatever given time. So,
all right. So the scariest thing besides the quarterback situation that you mentioned, the fact that he basically was drafted in the first round last year, which I remember, and he finished at wide receiver 10. He's a wide receiver 10. There is nothing you can do with a wide receiver 10.
Nope.
At all. That man played in 7 games, gave you 0 touchdowns. He basically was a shell of himself last year because of the injury, like the hammy. That is tough to deal with in the NFL because that's one of those you just have to rest, and that's one of those that I feel like that just linger with you for the rest of the season type deal. It just sucks. That's just the way it is. Having said all of that, I'm actually going to be on the opposite end on you on this one. Based on what you're telling me as far as the quarterback situation, like let's be clear. If Taysom Hill is in there, like you said, dude, Michael Thomas' stock just plummeted. Jameis Winston in there, I mean, he has a chance to, be relevant, but I don't see him. I definitely don't see him being a wide receiver 1 this year at all. At all. I can't see it. I feel like there's no avenue for me to see him as a wide receiver 1.
So what is he going as right now? Like, what's his current ADP?
31.
Okay. Wow.
So to me, I think if anybody's drafting Michael Thomas this year, if you take him, you are not taking him with comfort. You're going to have some uncertainty there. You're not feeling good about yourself all the way. Because in the back of your head, it's like Drew Brees isn't there. I got to rely on Mr. 30 for 30 and a Swiss Army knife. They don't throw the ball. Like, that's what it's about. Like, that's crazy. But I will say this as far as Jameis, the time that he actually played last year and when he was actually in the game for that brief moment, he didn't look bad.
Not at all.
And part of it maybe just because they wasn't game playing against him, or maybe he's actually, comfortable in the system. I don't know. But if Taysom Hill is relevant in the quarterback controversy in the offensive playbook as a quarterback, I'm sorry, I can't. Unless Taysom Hill is going to play full-time tight end or something, and Jameis Winston is going to be the full starter, until then, I'm giving this man an L. I can't do it. I just can't do it, Deshaun. I can't. I'm not touching this man at all. Pause. I'm just not drafting this dude.
No, I mean, I see all of the red flags there. Like, I do. I see, and like, man, I don't know why I'm running those stop signs, Jamar, or running those red lights, but I'm thinking it's just based on the talent, me basing on, I think, in my own personal opinion, the best chance that gives them to win football games is Jameis Winston. And this is just to be deep inside the season. And like you mentioned, in a couple of games, I even think he threw a couple of touchdown passes last year, if I'm not mistaken. I know he threw one bomb on like a play action play, or it was like a flea flicker or something with him being in there. But I think it's if Sean Payton can develop a game plan to limit his turnover, and I think he would be the coach to be able to do just that. And this is strictly talking from a Winston to Michael Thomas connection here, not a Taysom Hill to Michael Thomas, because like his passing aspect is kind of like suspect at the moment. You just have to, take account into Taysom's legs whenever he's in there, so it gives him an extra element. But I like Jameis Winston a lot more for this system and how it should be run, in my opinion. But I mean, that's neither here nor there. I guess we'll see. You and I are on both opposite ends of this one, so it will be fun to see how this one plays out.
Absolutely. I wish that man the best. I'm pretty sure he feels a certain type of way right now, but we'll see when he gets to training camp and see your boy licking his fingers, talking about some crab legs and stuff.
Man, you know, I'm not sure if you saw like the like he was doing this thing like for some reason. Like I don't know why his videos or whatever he do is just like funny. I think he's just one of those funny people without trying to be funny. So it's Jameis Winston is like a character to me, like from like a cartoon or something. So.
Gotta be, man. That's the only way to put it. And so, you know, just overall conclusion here. I mean, we named 8 guys, 4 of them off of ACL injuries, 4 just didn't live up to expectations. Overall, I mean, take these guys, with a grain of salt, but this is our approach on how to approach these guys. If your turn and you see these players right there within that window of guys to draft, OBJ, you gave him a B-, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I gave him a C. Saquon, we both gave him A's. Joe Burrow, we both gave him A's. Tariq Cohen, bear down, but you way down, sir. So we gave you L's on that one. Zeke, I mean, I think we both gave him A's. Yeah, we did.
Wow, I gave him an A. Yep, yeah, I sure did.
You sure did, man.
Mm-hmm.
Carson Wentz, I think we gave him C's on that one.
Yes.
Zach Ertz, he's taking the L for now based on his situation. And then Michael Thomas, we gave him an A, and I gave him an L. So we will see. We will definitely see. So yeah, this concludes today's podcast. Hey, let them know where they can find us, man.
They can find us on Apple Pod, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and other platforms. So basically everywhere where podcasts are found, guess what? Me and my homeboy Jamar Goodman are there, Destination Fantasy. So we are streaming live right now on YouTube as well as Facebook. So definitely check out the YouTube page, man. We've been getting a little bit better with like the content, getting a little bit more creative. So stop on